Welcome back. Welcome in. Welcome all to another episode of the Like That podcast.
Oh, no way we're doing
Munching away is
Go
Brooklyn
on.
on the left, myself,
Mm.
Nick. Guys, how are we? I know someone's getting satiated, and situated.
Did you actually start?
Yeah, no, we're rolling.
Doing pretty well. It's nice to be back.
Yeah, Nick, just keep talking for a moment.
I was on hiatus for a week. Had a busy holiday week last week. Was working a lot. I hope you guys had a good Thanksgiving. Mine was great. I had a lot of great food, delicious food. But it's good to be back. Glad to be back here. We had a lot of football to talk about.
Great food, delicious food, the best
Amazing
food.
food.
Billions of food. Um,
The best of food.
yeah. Last week's show was kind of funny. We started off with the bags over had just Nico and I, but Max Brosmer, man, thank you so much for proving me just so right. That was huge.
Yeah, we needed
I'm
that.
I
Yeah.
needed that.
We definitely.
We actually no, we really needed that.
Yeah, after going 0-3 and Nick missing the paper bags over our heads for the first time, that all three of us missed a pick of the week. Last week, not so
I had
pretty.
mine on in spirit. Don't worry. I had mine on.
I watched the Chiefs
It's
defense
from the
get
hours of like 7:30 or whatever to when we stopped recording. Just Nick was walking around his house with like a paper bag on his head. It's, Mom, you don't get it.
Yeah,
I
you don't
need to wear
understand.
it. You can't suffer alone.
he's eating his Thanksgiving plate, but he's like sitting facing the corner of the room. And then he's like, "Mom, you don't understand. This is my punishment."
Yeah.
Um,
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, that's 2 weeks prior. Now looking back on last week, Brooklyn's pick of the week, Max Brosmer. What a debut. You want to talk about a lock? I mean, that's how a pick of the week should be, man. I mean, a whole goose egg for the Vikings could not have been easier.
I honestly have no words. I thought that game was gonna be my score predictions was 35-10. I thought the Vikings were gonna score at some point. It's crazy. No, I just want to go back to that pick six that he delivered so gracefully into the hands of the Seahawks. That's got to be one of the worst pick six interceptions I've ever seen in my life.
Reminded me how much I miss Will Levis.
Oh, dude. That was a meme last year. It was like every week it was something new. You were waiting to see what he was gonna do,
Well,
how
like
he was gonna throw the football.
the Brosmer pick, you think the whole time as he's going down that he's not gonna throw it, and all of a sudden it just spits out in
Yeah.
such a crazy way.
He just
First he
underarms.
tries
It was like rugby. It was like a rugby throw.
he tries to stiff arm the D lineman off of him, which first I was like,
yeah, that's gonna work.
no, oh no, and then he just shuffles it away instead of trying to throw it away. But
Yeah, so congrats
proceeded
on
to throw three more after that.
congrats on Brooklyn for saving us because Thursday, I'm sitting there with my family, explaining to my grandfather about this wonderful podcast that we have, and but when the TV was on, the Chiefs were up by 7, and then all of a sudden I play a card game, and it's the completely other way around, and real was frustrating to watch when you can't watch the game physically, but yeah, the Chiefs got destroyed by probably the best offense in the last 3 weeks.
Yeah, I would say so. They have all the momentum going for them right now. It's clear as day that they're poised to make a playoff spot, especially with a lot of the tough losses that they had at the beginning of the season. Um, People thought that the George Pickens production was going to slow down once CD came back after his injury, but it's clear as day that they're still utilizing him. He's like that main focal point of that offense. Um, and even in that game, though, CD had a couple crucial jobs, but even in the Eagles game. But I mean, regardless of that, he's going to pick it back up, especially with these next few weeks. They're going to be dangerous.
And then, of course, we have the Monday night game, or excuse me, Sunday night game, where the Broncos went into a nail biter with the Commanders. And I, I was gonna ask you this, Nick. Were you mad at the Commanders going for the 2 point? Because realistically, with Broncos, I think you had Broncos minus 6.5. So on
I
the
did.
you were kind of rooting for them to kick the extra point and the Broncos go downfield and score again, which still
Yeah,
slim, but
it was slim. I don't exactly know how much time was left in
it's
overtime
like 3 minutes.
when they went
Yeah,
forward.
it was like three
Yeah,
or 4 minutes.
so it's just it's just a weird decision. It made no sense to me. It was a irritating game to watch. Um, I mean, on paper the pick looked good. I mean, defensively Denver's looked strong all year. Washington struggled, but I mean Marcus Mariota, man, he just keeps finding a way to take the struggling offense and figure it out.
Well, from
Yeah,
the broadcast, it was Mariota.
Mariota. Thank you, Chris Collinsworth. For
Mariota.
actually, I had to almost mute my TV. I was getting so pissed. I was like, nobody says it like that. Um, but no, I mean, I'm telling you because I know you were asleep when the game was going on. But the Commanders did a great job in that game of like not giving the Broncos a chance to like really pressure them. Like Mariota was literally releasing the ball within like a second and a half. Like it was hard for the Broncos all night to really get to him. They did a couple of times, but like that's what kept the Commanders in the game was that they took the Broncos like main weapons like away. Like that pass rush defense was there, but not even close to what it usually is. And also, Mariota found like good, just made some crazy throws twice. I think in overtime, there was a deep bomb, or at least from the like 40, going towards going towards their own end zone. Um, he made a deep bomb to Debo, and I think the first one was to McLaurin. The first one got called back on something, and then he just did it again, and that's what got them into the spot to almost go for two to win the game. Commanders played out of their minds. That defense also, a struggling or an inconsistent Broncos offense. Commanders defense really showed up that night as well.
Which was just so insane. Because you're just seeing a Commanders team when you look at it on paper, it's like, yeah, they're just playing with heart. Like Mariota, like I talk a lot about like backup QBs and why I love them in the way because they're necessarily like they're not the franchise, right? They're not necessarily gonna like try to hide away from hits or like they're not scared to make the risky play. And yeah, you saw Commanders, put their balls out there, and it worked for most of the game outside of the 2 point conversion.
Yeah.
Those are right out there.
But heading into week 14, we have four byes: the Patriots, the Panthers, the Giants, and the 49ers, which for fantasy, if you're not in the playoffs, as most people aren't, but I know Nick and I are in a league that hit playoffs this week, but at the very least, you're in a spot where you might need to win to make the playoffs. You might need some people to lose, and you got some big name fantasy players off the table here. But jumping into week 14, guys, I don't know how many episodes we've mentioned this, how we've wanted to make a soundboard, and every episode we're getting better. So let's hit that button, baby.
We got a pick of the week.
I love it.
Greetings, everybody. Well, as you know, me finally getting one to go my way with the Seahawks last week. I'm gonna go for what Nico considered a ballsy pick when I even asked him about it earlier this week. Tomorrow night we got Lions playing against Dallas. Lions being at home. I'm gonna roll with the underdogs here. I'm gonna go with Dallas +3 for that spread. And to me, I'm not saying that it's possible this could go a different way, but the Lions right now are pretty beat up. Amon-Ra, I believe, is trending towards not playing, if not pretty much already ruled out. That whole offensive line right now, if you look at the injury report, is listed as questionable. That just puts a damper in that, efficiency of that offense right now, and really it's going to be Gibbs and JMO, with no Laporta as well. I want to go to the Dallas side of things, going against a spread here. When they've been going against a spread that's between 1.5 to 4.5, they are 3-1 against that type of spread. Offensively, they've looked great. I know, last week, 28 points still against the Chiefs, 24 playing against the Eagles. Those are the two guys who played in the Super Bowl last year. Keep that in mind. And they still came out on top. Made this point last week. Their offense keeps them in every single game. I don't expect anything different this week. I think the Lions right now I think it's going to be a pretty close game because both teams are pretty much in must-win situations to save their season. So I think every week you're going to actually get their best football because it's all pretty much on the line. Jared Goff hasn't been crazy under pressure. His performance historically just hasn't been the best. And Quentin Williams currently having one of his best seasons in terms of pressures. I expect that Dallas defense that is looks completely different from what we saw to start the season. Definitely going to show up against a team that the league knows is one of the best offenses on paper when healthy. But with those injuries as are, I like that Dallas offense to absolutely keep them in this game and for that rhythm to keep them going in here +3. I like that.
You like that. Roll
I like
credits.
that. Oh,
I like
give me a
that.
raise.
Yeah, as crazy as it is, looking at the spreadsheet, both you and Nick are on Dallas, and I couldn't, man. It makes sense. Like, you're talking about a team that's, absolutely hot. You beat the Eagles, you beat the Chiefs. But I do think there is going to be some type of roadblock for this Cowboys team, and you're going into Detroit, which Jared Goff has always performed better at home. Primetime game as well. Those games can always be a little bit shaky. And the Lions, I mean, they've had some things not go their way. The Packers game, I mean, I think the stat I saw was the Lions are 0 for 8 in their last 8 fourth down attempts. And I don't think that stays forever. You could say it's a little bit of unluckiness tied with the health, but for me, I'm taking the team that's just like better well rounded. I know that yes, there are injuries there, but we're talking about a Lions team that is defensively a fringe top 12 team for EPA per play, an offense that is statistically right there with Dallas. And yeah, Amon-Ra might not be there, but they still have those playmakers out there. And being at home, I think they get this one out. And the other big thing that I took from this is out of every game for this as when we're recording, out of every game for Week 14, the most money on one side is this matchup. Dallas has, I think, over 83% of the money. And we know these casinos want to make their money. So I think this game goes in Detroit's favor.
You have some solid points, but I can't ride with Detroit, man. Had them as a previous pick of the week, but I'm rolling with Dallas. They broke my heart not too long ago. Well, yeah, they actually did because they destroyed my Eagles, scoring 24 unanswered
Destroyed
points.
my Chiefs.
But yeah, exactly. But honestly, I just the way that this offense has been able to perform against these two really good defenses, especially heading into this Detroit team that is really beat up, and it has shown. Detroit really hasn't looked like the team that they have looked dominantly the last two seasons, and I mean, I know how bad this Dallas defense really is, but the addition of Quentin Williams and how Jadeveon Clowney's been playing, it has really made a difference a little bit, especially on the defensive line. Their run defense has been a little bit better. I know, Nico, you weren't able to watch a little bit of the game. But I mean, Patrick Mahomes, he was doing his usual thing, running around, but he was kind of limited. He wasn't really able to he had a lot of hard times making those Mahomes plays that we're used to seeing, especially from this past season. I mean, he had 29 fantasy points, but I mean, he was definitely under pressure. And I mean, we know statistically this season, Goff is really bad under pressure. I mean, he has a passer rating under pressure of 59, according to PFF, which is really bad. So if the Cowboys D line, especially if they can rely on Quentin Williams, Jadeveon Clowney, if he plays, if they can get those guys going, they might have a chance. And if they can rely on this offense to keep performing like they've had the last 3 weeks, I think they could get it done, especially with the total at 54.5. They're expecting some very high scoring.
Yeah, no, it's going to be a high flying affair, and we'll see how it lands.
I want to highlight one thing real quick about the Chiefs game. Let's keep in mind that this Dallas defense that has not been great kept the Chiefs scoreless for quarters 2 and 3. If it weren't for a little bit of Mahomes' magic in the fourth quarter, that game ends 31-14. So that Dallas defense has absolutely stepped up this week, and to add to the injuries I was talking about, that entire offensive line is right now listed as questionable. Penei Sewell also questionable. They're just beat up. And if anything's gonna win it for them, it's gonna be J-Mo and Gibbs. And personally, I don't think that's as scary without Amon-Ra and Laporta. So and also behind a beat up offensive line, Cowboys honestly could have an advantage.
Well, you mentioned a lot of playmakers for Detroit, but not my player to watch in this game. With the Amon-Ra, like most, this may differ if Amon-Ra does play, but as it stands right now, It's a game time decision, and I think it'd be smart for Detroit maybe not to play him this week. I know almost every game is must win, but you don't want to risk an injury going forward. But with that said, I love Isaac Tesla here. I think there's some targets to be made up. I mean, you mentioned Amon Ra, you mentioned Sam Laporta, and I think Tesla is gonna be have a good spot to get not only more targets but also playing a Dallas defense that, yeah, they beefed up the D line, but they didn't add anything to the secondary. It's the same problems we've seen all year, and they're in the top 5 when it comes to passing yards allowed. So I think there's opportunity for Tesla.
Definitely opportunity for Tesla, but in terms of JMO and Tesla being the guys who win the game, I understand Tesla's going to see more production fantasy wise that could help out. So I like the pick there for that. I don't think it's going to make a difference in the game, and honestly, but Nick and I are going with George Pickens here. Obvious reason, he's been on fire. The connection that he developed with Dak once CD was out, and it's just carried over to this point. I think last week his receiving prop for yards was higher than CD's, which was just kind of nuts. And now, if that Lions defense is going to have their hands full, with CD and George, like, it's going to be hard to figure out which one you can really focus on. And one of them is probably in line for a big week, as they have been week by week here. But I think George Pickens just overall has this really great momentum going for him now that he hasn't really had an injury all year. And it's just going to keep carrying on into this week.
We have a fantasy team with 5 Dallas Cowboys players. So playoffs started this week in that league. So we are a Dallas Cowboys fan tomorrow.
Who you got? You got Fur. You got CD, George,
I have
Devontae,
CD,
and Dak.
George, no, Brandon Aubrey.
An important piece.
How could I forget? No, actually, it is.
Yeah, Dak, CD, Pickens, Ferguson, Brandon Aubrey. Took over this team, by the way. 13-13 with league median.
To be fair, when you took over this team, the previous owner had George Pickens, but George Pickens was still a Steeler. You took over the team, and then he got traded to the Cowboys.
And he got traded to the Cowboys. Yes.
So look out for the rest of your roster. Maybe everybody's heading to Dallas. Who's your running back?
Not complaining, no. Kyron and Woody Marks right now.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense for them to be traded, but if you look at the trends based off your team, you should be adding a new Cowboy this offseason.
We'll see.
But moving forward, we got a divisional matchup in the AFC North. Pittsburgh heading to Baltimore. Line is currently -6 in favor of Baltimore, over under 42.5. A Baltimore team that saw the return of Joe Burrow and got their asses kicked. I think it was 4 fumbles or 4 turnovers that I saw. And a defense that really has not stepped up even after they've gotten a little bit healthier, but you're seeing those holes. And looking at the spreadsheet, we've got all 3 of us on the Ravens. So I with Aaron Rodgers being out, I don't think there's as much pressure there, but still a large line at -6. So we're all pretty confident here.
I would say so. I think this is kind of the get back game for Baltimore. I mean, both teams are 6-6. They're tied for this division. It's kind of in the wide open right now. I mean, that was a kind of a crucial loss last week, and I mean, Lamar didn't look great. The passing game didn't look great. This is kind of the perfect opportunity against a struggling Steelers defense to kind of get the ball rolling. I mean, they've lost 3 out of their last 4. 2 of those losses were by 2 or more possessions. They're 4th in turnovers per game, 2nd in turnovers created per game. And I mean, DK Metcalf in his last 5 games really hasn't been kind of the staple that we're used to seeing, especially this year in general. Last 5 games, 18 catches, 144 yards, and 1 touchdown. So, I mean, this Steelers offense has kind of been relying on Jalen Warren, Kenneth Gainwell we've seen, or 1 out of the 50 tight ends that they have on their roster. But I think this is going to be a big coaching affair between Harborough and Mike Tomlin. I mean, fun historical stat, Mike Tomlin, 16-14 against the Baltimore Ravens, or against Jim Harborough, all time. But I think Baltimore's kind of in a do-or-die situation. There was a lot of hype going on to them into the season, and now that they have their whole team back somewhat healthy, This is kind of the run that they need to go on in a division that is kind of lackluster. And now that Cincinnati is at full strength, but they need a lot to happen for them to make the playoffs. Both of these teams really are kind of in do or die, but I think Baltimore is a better team.
Yeah. I know the spread by a touchdown is kind of crazy, but that Steelers offense has just been so rough to watch in general. And I don't really trust really anyone on that team. Like we just like DK, I'm looking at his sleeper stats, but also like the latest headline is DK Metcalf a must bench moving forward. And if that doesn't speak enough for just like how inefficient that offense has been. Going up against now, yeah, like Nick said, the Ravens have all their pieces back. They have no reason not to put their best show out. Also knowing that their backs are completely against the wall. And all it takes is one big game out of Lamar, Derrick Henry to have a vintage performance, and you could be seeing a flash of, or not a flash, but a really big kickstart of what the Ravens were supposed to be this year. And I think they get a perfect chance now going against the Steelers team that just is in such a rut.
Yeah, I mean Lamar also not at full strength, and you see like the scrambling numbers really show to that. But I think the script last week again, one of those turnovers changes. I mean, you're talking about a touchdown in one scenario. One play completely flips 7 points off the board. So I'm not too scared in this scenario just because of like we both said or like we said just the lack of offensive pressure that Pittsburgh really puts on. But yeah, I think that stat you mentioned, Nick, is really funny to me because the Steelers are fourth in turnovers per game, but also second in turnovers created. So like there's a lot of sloppy ball, which Baltimore is pretty susceptible to.
Yeah.
But players to watch, Nick and I taken the I would say hot hands of Isaiah Likely, but they're not really hot. They're a little slippery if anything. Um, but yeah, you're seeing him getting work back into the offense finally after that injury that left him out most of the year. But I think the opportunities still stay.
Definitely. I mean, we've seen, especially too last season, he was kind of a favorite target of Lamar. And like you mentioned, with him not being 100%, not being able to scramble as much, he's looking to his two tight ends a lot more. If you look at the box score last week, I mean, it was Zay Flowers. And then after that, it was Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely who tied for most targets on the offense. I mean, if I think Rashad Bateman had one target last week for 0 yards, which is really bad. So I
Classic
mean,
Rashad
it's going to
Bateman
be either
moment.
one of the two. Yeah, that's true. So it's going to be one of the two, but I'm liking Likely this week.
Liking that likely. I mean, that's fair. Both guys, if any of you guys watched that game that had touchdowns that were called back, well, no, likely just straight up got the ball punched out into the end zone for a touchback, which is unfortunate because that was a touchdown. He was just switching hands. Good play on defense, honestly. But Zay had a couple of big plays last week that were also one of them was a touchdown that was for like 50 yards. I got called back, and we go to the goat Gene's territory for his 2 minutes of fame, talking about the call, and it was just a little bit of a push off, nothing crazy, and the whole consensus was that probably shouldn't have been a flag, but it negated a big touchdown for Zay, and I think that with those pieces back, Lamar has a connection brewing with them, and it's just a matter of time till one of them has the game that they were supposed to last week.
And moving forward, the matchups this week. Every week I make the same comment. I literally think I started with every week, but the matchups this week there weren't many locks. You're seeing bad teams versus bad teams, and some talent versus talent, and this is what we're looking at now. Cincinnati at Buffalo. Um, Line is now at -5.5 in favor of the Bills, and over under 53.5, which in most weeks would be the highest. But shout out the Cowboys because they're playing. Um, Cincinnati may not have T. Higgins. Looking like most likely not, but still a chance there. And funny enough, the Bengals and Bills defensively are a lot more similar than you would think, which is kind of a scare for how we talk about this Bengals defense. But you're talking about Cincinnati, who allows the second most rushing yards allowed per game. Buffalo's right there at 30. Two teams that just let the running back run all over you. But the incentive to Buffalo being that they allow the least amount of passing yards per game. Granted, is it because the run game is just so dominant against them? I think that speaks to it in a way as well. But looking at the spreadsheet, both Brooklyn and I on the Bills, because why would Brooklyn pick the Bengals? Um, but I originally was on the Bengals, and after doing a little bit more research on just the matchups here and it's not going to be a good weather game. I think we're going to see some snow, so I think this is just a classic Buffalo like return to form game. But at the same time, I think it's going to be a decent shootout.
Personally, yeah, I mean, I can't really bet against my own team in this scenario, and it's really hard, like watching the Bills. Like I told Nico this last week, like it's hard to bet on the Bills because you never know which version of them you're going to get. But going against the Bengals right now, like I would expect that overall Buffalo has a bit of an edge here. A touchdown, I like that. Also, if you didn't see, Bills just signed Unk today. Darius Slay joining that cornerback room. You know, we're almost getting the big three: Trey White and and Darius Slay almost forming that Nets big three. But I can't root against my own team here, and especially not against a defense as bad as Cincinnati with a quarterback as good as Josh Allen. You could kind of say the same thing, I guess, for Cincinnati going against a Buffalo defense that's been struggling. But for the sole purpose here, not going to bet for the Bengals. I'm going to hope the Bills come out here with a bit of a vengeance and just to keep their season going in the right way.
Um, I also wanted to take Buffalo, but I'm rolling with Cincy because they looked really, really good last week against Baltimore. Joe Burrow looks like he hasn't lost a step after missing, what was it, like 3 months with the injury, basically. Um, but we talk about how bad these defenses are, but I mean, if you look at what Miami was able to do to Buffalo with as bad as the defense with them, they were able to limit them. So, I mean, the way I look at it, if Cincinnati's as bad as they've been defensively, if they're able to come out with at least a game plan to limit Josh Allen, their offense can speak for its own. I feel
Well,
like, and
duh.
I know, I
You,
mean,
you play LeBron. You're gonna worry about
we're
Mike Miller.
we're talking, we're talking. I mean, we're talking about how both these defenses are horrendous, sure, but I mean, Buffalo got embarrassed by the Dolphins not too long ago. So there's definitely margin for error here. But I'm I think Joe Burrow is gonna go into Buffalo. I think he's gonna show a statement. He's gonna be like, I've missed all this time, I'm still here. So
And
I
he's
definitely
very
see it
much
being
fighting
a
for the
shootout.
division too. I mean, they've got a little bit more
I
ground
looked
to
up
make
I
up.
I looked up the Bengals playoff implication, and I'm pretty sure the Ravens need to lose to the Steelers once. They need to beat the Steelers and the Ravens. Bengals need to win out. The Steelers need to lose to the Ravens at least once, and then the Colts and the Dolphins need to lose their next 2 games if they want to make the
It's
playoffs.
possible. It's
It's
there.
definitely possible. So
Um, Talking about how bad we think the run defense is for both these teams, and Joe Burrow coming back makes it an easy player to watch. Chase Brown for Nick and I. Um, I mean, granted, right before Burrow came back, you start to see a little bit of that production come back. But again, this is going to be one of his best opportunities of the year.
definitely, I mean, and not even if it doesn't necessarily work in the run game, I see him being utilized a lot in the passing game. He's been shown, especially with Burrow, that he's a good receiving back. So I mean, especially he would be a good start this week.
You know what? I think honestly, Chase Brown's definitely a very safe option to go with, and I absolutely can understand why you go with him. I'm gonna take a bit of a risk here and go with a guy that no, not many people have much belief in, and that's Keon Coleman. All of the drama surrounding everything that's had his name on it in the last 2 weeks for Buffalo, the healthy scratches and everything on a guy so highly praised about, comes back, finally back in the game, scores a touchdown last week. A lot of emotion there after he scored that. It was awesome to see that, and at the same time, like there's been a lot of talk from the leaders on that team about getting him into the right mindset and understanding that he is a high value player in this for that offense. Scoring a touchdown in his return is big, and if the Bills have the belief in him of the pick that they used on him, I think that he's going to be another just an option that Allen might just start to go to a little bit more. Because I don't necessarily, like I've said, think that the everybody eats offense is a way you can actually win a Super Bowl.
Yeah, and Keon needs to eat a little bit more because that Bills offense really needs it.
Yeah.
Moving forward, heading down to Atlanta here. We're going Battle of the Birds. Seattle at Atlanta. I believe the line is at 7. Um, 1 second, just refreshed there. Yep, 7, 44.5 over under. And we're seeing a Seahawks team that, took care of business. Vikings defense actually didn't play a bad game against them, if we're being honest. I mean, they forced 2 turnovers. It's just an offense that really couldn't do much. I mean, you saw also the first week that JSN really didn't do much. I mean, granted, didn't necessarily have to. He could not have even suited up, and the score doesn't change. But an Atlanta team that more in the opposite. I mean, you're most likely not going to see Drake London again. Penix most likely done for the year. And a team that just took a pretty bad loss at home or on the road against the Jets. Spreadsheet wise, both Nick and I are going to be on the Seahawks, but Brooklyn, we like Atlanta here.
It's funny because I just took Seahawks as my pick of the week last week. Yeah, I like Atlanta here. Because if we look at the Seahawks game, like the Seahawks walloped the Vikings, but it was not entirely from the offensive standpoint. Like that defense and how many turnovers they created is the reason why that was that big of a blowout. But we also saw what Darnold looks like against like a half decent pass defense. And Atlanta, while they have slipped in terms of kind of what we a little bit like if anyone thought they were dangerous at the beginning of the season, they're not at this point. But defensively, they're still a top 10, if not maybe within like top 8-ish in terms of passing defense. And if it's going to come down to, a Seahawks, run game that hasn't been great, and then Darnold, who's looked a little bit more human against some good defenses, I think it could be a little bit closer, than we really think. And I like for Atlanta to kind of show up defensively, and maybe that tends to be the thing that keeps them in this game, because a touchdown to me is kind of, I'm not saying it's a lot to ask for, but I think it could definitely be mitigated if the Falcons that defense shows up like it has all season, except for Tyrod Taylor.
If you take a look at the box score of the Falcons Jets game from last week, the Falcons led in every single category: total yards, passing yards, rushing yards, time of possession, everything. And they still managed to somehow lose the game.
Because Nick Folk decided to kick a field goal that got all of 20 feet in the air.
So for that, for me to see the Seahawks, who have been favored by double digits against probably better teams, only be favored by 7.5. To me, I thought that was a no-brainer. I mean, they're ranked 6th overall defensively on PFF. This team's really good. I mean, they've shown, and like to Nico's point, like they just showed that the number one receiver in the league, basically right now in receiving yards, or top 3, didn't even need to suit up, do anything, and they shut out. The defense showed up. I mean, granted, it's against a backup quarterback, but still, I mean, it's the NFL. A shutout in the NFL is still pretty impressive, regardless. Um, Seattle's on a hot streak right now. I mean, the only other team in that division, I think, that has a run for their money is the Rams. And that was a very close loss. So I think they do have something to prove. So I like Seattle in this game.
Yeah, I just
Can't
I can't defend Atlanta. Yeah, I mean you played decently well against the Jets, and the defense started the year so well, but the last like 6 weeks, this defense went from like a top 5 unit to like a bottom 10, and Kirk Cousins cannot do enough offensively to support that.
No.
saying you don't
So
have a vintage, you like that moment.
no, nope. I think there's not much like that left. Those legs, those legs don't move like they used to, man. And let's not act like the Seattle defense isn't nothing either. I mean, this could get really ugly. Um, with that being said, I think Atlanta has to throw to somebody, and my player to watch for that reason is Kyle Pitts, because the Seahawks, while I said their defensive unit is great, they do, if there's any position they give up the opportunity to, it is the tight end. And again, I always see Kyle Pitts' name and I just smile because I've never had the opportunity to hold him in a fantasy team, so I don't really have the pain of the disappointment. But I might get some this week.
That's
Well,
fair.
I've seen Kyle Pitts' name on a player to watch a lot this year. I'm not a fan of it. Not a big fan.
And as you can
I'm
tell,
going with Ken
as you can see
Walker.
from the Instagram Victory Monday post, there hasn't been much to talk about with it too.
Yeah, no, fuck Kyle Pitts. I'm going with Ken Walker. I know Brooklyn touched upon a bad Seattle run game, but I think Nico talked about too about how this team, this defense, especially the last few weeks, they've been bottom 10. I think this is the week where Ken Walker's kind of utilized a little bit more, especially if that passing defense starts to turn up against this week. I think hopefully Zach Charbonnet doesn't get the touches. I mean, it's been all year, but if you have Ken Walker in fantasy this week, I would definitely start him against the Falcons.
I was about to err on the Charbonnet side of things, man, for my player to watch. I think
No.
running backs. I think running back's a decent bet. Like, I think Ken probably is due for a Ken Walker game. I'm gonna go with Charbonnet for my player to watch for the sole purpose of like this is a Falcons run defense that hasn't been that great. And we've seen Charbonnet get a lot of those targets that end up being the touchdown runs with within the 20, within the 30. And if you're going against a Falcons team that defensively slightly slipped up a little bit over the last stretch, probably going to see a possibility for the run game to pick up. But I'm not going to go against my spread there. I still think that they keep it close enough to win, or not to win, to cover within a touchdown.
He's itching for a Zach Charbonnet touchdown.
No.
Um,
No.
Well, yeah. The script very well could be a Ken Walker 80-yard run to put him on the 5-yard line, then Charbonnet just takes the 6.
It happens all the time.
Yeah,
It happens almost every week.
Next on the matchup, we got another divisional matchup here. We've got the Colts at Jacksonville. The line at 1.5. Over under 47.5. A Colts team that to begin the year was as dominant as could be. Seen as one of the most historic offenses that we've seen. I mean, they're still ranked as the number 1 team in EPA, tied with the Chiefs. Shout out the Chiefs, minus pick of the weeks. But anywho, but the Colts, they've gone on a little bit of a skid in the last couple of weeks, especially against the spread. But you saw that loss against the Chiefs. Shout out the Chiefs, not for my pick of the week though. And they won, but it wasn't in the latest fashion. The theme for the Colts has been if Jonathan Taylor can't get 15 plus carries on the ground, it's not going to look good. We're talking about a Colts team that has the 5th highest red zone attempt rate, which in reference puts them with defenses named after the Oakland Raiders, the New York Giants, the Cincinnati Bengals, and the Baltimore Ravens. Whereas you're looking at a Jacksonville team that, as dumb as it is, I think the biggest question mark for them each week is just what type of Trevor Lawrence are you going to get? And facing a defense that the Colts definitely let you air it out a little bit more. I like Jacksonville here, as does Nick. Both riding the dogs at home. But Brooklyn, is this your team? Do you bleed blue?
I do.
The dramatic pause.
Yeah, I know.
You had to like. I believe
it's
it.
so hard. It's so hard to trust or to watch a Jags game and think that Trevor Lawrence is gonna have like any sort of consistent performance. Like he's literally like the most hot and cold guy I think at quarterback I've ever seen in my life. Especially this year, like touchdown. I forget now what if anyone could check like the touchdown interception ratio. Last time I checked on it, it was not good. Now going for the Colts, Jones still playing through that fractured fibula, which is just nuts to me. But you have to keep him, in that lineup because, you're contending almost. I think the
16
Colts can play well enough,
touchdowns, 11 interceptions.
which is just not great. Of course,
Oh.
I'm absolutely factoring in that Sauce is out this week. But looking at this defense is a defense that really isn't or wasn't anything too bad before Sauce got there, and it's not going to help that he's out. BTJ didn't do much last week. If anything, Jacoby Myers has been one of the biggest outliers from since that trade. But I like the Colts to know that they are a team that needs to keep momentum up and show that they didn't start out 9-2 or sorry 9-2. They didn't start that strong for no reason at this point. It's just I like the Colts here, especially with a thin spread to cover by a field goal.
Um, I I think Jacksonville's defense is really going to be the difference maker in this game. They've looked strong the last 3 weeks. They had that convincing win too against the Chargers. They won. I'm pretty sure by 30 points. It was like 34-3. I'm pretty sure. I mean, blew out the Titans last week. I mean, that's a no-brainer. Anybody can beat the Titans. Well, not anybody. Excuse me.
Don't bring it up.
But but I mean, this beat up Colts team is going up against Jacksonville defense that's ranked sixth defensively in the NFL. According to PPF, they're second in the league in takeaways. They average nearly 2 takeaways a game. But they're also fourth in rushing defense at 88 rushing yards per game. And I mean Jonathan Taylor, like Nico just mentioned, if he's not getting 15 attempts per game, it's not looking too good. So I mean, if this defense can do what they've been able to do the last 3 weeks, limit the ball through the air, force some takeaways, especially because we've seen in the past if Daniel Jones can't limit the turnovers, then it's hard for them to win football games, come back and try to score. We've seen it with the Rams game. So both these teams 8-4. A few weeks ago, we were saying that the Colts had this division won. Now it's looking very different. I mean, Jacksonville,
It's
a
the
few weeks.
division. Jacksonville's the division lead.
This is basically, yeah. And, not too long ago, this team beat the Chiefs. And I feel like we forget that.
And the Colts didn't beat the Chiefs.
So that means that
The Cowboys beat the
Jags
Chiefs.
are automatically better than the Colts.
Yeah, and you're talking about the two teams that allow the most amount of pass attempts. So an over-under 40.5, but if they can't get JT going, you're going to see a lot of the rock being thrown across the air. And to that same point is why I like Brian Thomas Jr. as a player to watch. Very disappointing season. I don't know if this is a bias just because I invested a decent amount into him at the beginning of the year. But again, you look at the opportunity and a Colts team that I just mentioned allows a lot of pass attempts, allows a lot of points to wide receivers, a defense that a little overrated in the secondary, especially no sauce there. So I think that it's going to be a good day for Jacksonville receivers, but I hope it's Brian Thomas that ends up being having the best performance.
I am rolling with Tyler Warren as, if you have him in fantasy, there's never a reason to not start him unless he's not playing. But with Jones being hurt, and if they are in a situation at this point where JT can't get that production going, he is always that consistent target that Jones goes to midfield, downfield. He's really a very versatile option. We've seen it all year, and nothing really changes going into this game. It's just a matter of can he get the looks that he usually looks for Jones to get him the ball in the spots where it's going to matter the most.
For me, going with a fellow tight end. I'm going with Brenton Strange. Was on IR. He was kind of a big target of Trevor Lawrence before he got hurt, and then came back off of IR, and then kind of picked up where he left off. Last week he had 15 points against the Titans. I see that production being there, especially if, sorry, Nico, BTJ can't get going like he hasn't been able to. I think the
They can
production
both eat.
there.
We can live happily
I mean,
ever
they
after.
both can. They both definitely can. I hope they do. I hope all three of these guys eat. But yeah, I mean, if you don't have Tyler Warren and you need a tight end to pick up this weekend, if he's available, I would suggest him. He's probably a good guy to go get. The production's there.
And moving forward, I mean Titans Browns. You knew what's coming.
Hit it.
The poop game of the week.
The fart matters so much at the end. That's my favorite one.
Oh man, this is gonna be
so
a
good.
useful tool.
The pride that I had that I lost having to edit that clip and hearing just the fart noise probably like 6 times over, just when I'm editing it and such. But yes, it's the poop game of the week. You're smelling that right. It smells like shit in here. Titans at the Browns, -4 in favor of Cleveland. Over under of 33.5. Which I think is the lowest that we've seen this year.
Just say 33.5.
33.5 according to DraftKings.
Are you serious?
Let's give both the teams a loss.
How much is a ticket for this game? How much is the ticket for this game?
I would say get-in
Probably-
price is going to be less than $50. Because
Probably
don't disrespect Cleveland fans. They exist.
It is
I'm not
$8. Tickets as low as $8.
$8?
You got to pay me to be there.
Dude. Oh. That's terrible.
Oh,
The
You guys
lowest
want to go?
NFL
You guys want to go to Cleveland?
It's about a 5-hour drive from me.
that's like
You can set
4.5-ish.
Oh, man, bro.
The lowest NFL ticket price of all time was $12 for the first Super Bowl in 1967.
That can't be
That's
right.
equivalent to like 100. That's equivalent to like
I would rather go watch that now than this game that's about to happen.
Dude, Red Zone costs more a month to go to this game.
Most
For
of
real?
my actual Spotify is almost as much as that.
But yeah, to actually talk about the game, I mean,
Oh,
yeah,
it's not.
I mean, Browns defense very good. That's not a surprise there. Titans ass. Did show some life in some games recently. You know, they did cover back to back. One of those against Brooklyn's favorite team, the Chargers. But I think, you know, looking at the spreadsheet, it's an ugly game. All of us are taking Cleveland as favorites here. At home, the better defense, and you know there aren't too many times where you could say the Cleveland offense has met its match, but they have, and it's not a compliment for either team. Is there anything you guys want to say? Anything?
No.
Defense wins
I'll watch
championships is the most truest like statement at this point, but this is not a championship. This is just like, let's just get this game over with. Like this shouldn't even be televised.
My question is how many total players in talking fantasy scoring, how many players score more than the Browns defense this week?
Like how many players in general between both teams score more than the Browns defense?
I
Both?
I think you could count on one hand.
At least 3.
I think three or four. I think Jerry Judy is probably going to get a touchdown. I think Harold Fannin might have a game.
How many Titans players?
I think
Remember the red zone graphic we saw last week where the highest scoring Titan in fantasy had 8 points?
yeah. The Browns defense
Tajay
might have
Jackson.
12.
Yeah, dude. Also, Deshaun Watson was designated to practice today. I don't know if you
Oh
guys saw
no, that's not good.
That's another soundboard button.
Oh, wait. Sorry.
Oh, is this the loud one?
That's just
Oh,
nasty.
okay. I thought it was the other one.
Yeah, not too much I want to talk about in this game. Cleveland good defense, Tennessee bad. Outside of special teams, shout out DK. My player to watch, it's gonna be Judkins because I could not, in good faith, pick anybody else. Gonna be honest. I don't think if you ask me how many players in this game finished with over 10 points, I would say Judkins, and maybe just look you in the eyes and do like the smirk, just like a shrug.
I'm actually this week. I'm high on Johnny Hecker. I think he's gonna get a lot of chances to boot that ball to try to pin the Browns within the 20. So I think if you have him in a league, you're a Johnny Hecker fan.
You're in any punter league.
This is the year that if you have like how many people do you think could have a Johnny Hecker jersey?
If there's a will, there's a
Probably-
way.
His parents.
Yeah.
Rule
You'd be
32.
People
It's like
with,
the same
wall from
thing.
100 position. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you have a Johnny Hecker jersey that's been sitting in the bottom of your closet, you whip it out this week and you wear it with pride. The Titans are gonna slam that football down the field with his foot.
I don't care if you're a Browns fan getting married. You
With
put
his
you
foot.
put the jersey over the suit.
That ball is not entering Cleveland territory via Cam Ward or anything by the offense, but he will pin them within the 20. That's all I got. This game
With his
sucks.
foot.
All right, flush that game down the toilet. And next up, we have another opportunity.
We got a pick of the week.
My turn. My turn now. All right. Now, it's the get back week. We had a week off. We weren't even here to make my pick last week, and it didn't hit, and that's okay.
Fire
But
me
this
up.
week, it's a new week. We're rolling with an underdog. We're rolling with the Chicago Bears, baby. Plus 6.5. Going into Lambeau.
Give us your best bear roar.
No, fuck off. We're not doing that. Um,
Come
that
on.
now that I
Do
know
the
we're not
roar.
trying to be excessive here.
That's just nasty.
Okay. Anyways, this Bears team, they've been on fire. They've won their last 5 games. In those 5 games, they've covered the spread four of those games. Against the Eagles, they had 280 yards total on the ground. That was split between Swift and Monangai. They're a really good rushing team. They're ranked 4th in PFF in rushing with the 88 grade. And Caleb Williams, he's graded 18th in QBs in PFF. Pretty average, but 4th in rushing. I mean, the rushing grade itself can attribute to that. I mean, their defense has been pretty good. Green Bay, they're 5-7 against the spread. Especially with the 8-3-1 record. I keep forgetting that they tied the Cowboys. That's still insane to me. They're 4-6 against the spread as favorites. For defense that we say that's very good and they're ranked very highly, they're 28th in takeaways. They average almost one less per game. When they're favored by 6.5 all time, they cover the spread 47.5% of the time, which I thought was a pretty interesting fun fact. So less than 50% of the time when they're favored by a touchdown, they cover less than half. And they've been favored over 6.5 7 times this season, and they're 1-6 on the season with that line. This is a big divisional game. I mean, Bears are they're in the lead. I'm pretty sure they're the number 1 in the NFC right now, which who the hell would have thought that ever? Yeah, I mean, I'm loving this Bears team. I like this line at 6.5. I think if it was a little bit lower, it would be a little bit different. But I think this Bears team, the way that they've been playing, if they utilize this run game the way that they can, especially against this Green Bay defense, and if Caleb Williams can limit the turnovers against a defense that hasn't been able to force any, I think they have a chance. I think they really do have a chance to go into Lambeau, and if not cover, maybe get a surprise win. I mean, we've seen it. We've seen it before. The Green Bay's had some tough losses on the season before, so I'm rolling with the Bears.
Yeah, I can't really tell what just happened last week. Black Friday, as we all very much know. Rough game for me to put USD on and watch that go down the drain as the Eagles fully just shit the bed. And I can't tell if that's a representation of a horrible, out of sync Eagles offense or a Chicago defense that really stepped up. And if it is possibly that Chicago defense, which statistically this year hasn't been great, if that's a performance that they could replicate here against Green Bay, who has a kind of an extensive injury list right now, God, they got a lot of momentum going their way. And Ben Johnson's offensive genius right now. Like, that game was just crazy to watch for the Bears to take over in hostile territory. And this is kind of just like the same situation, different team. So I'm gonna go with the Bears here. I know I called them frauds, but now I kind of just have to ride the hot hand and go with a Packers team that hasn't entirely looked fully consistent.
I want to preface by saying, group hug, love you guys. I wouldn't start a podcast with people that I didn't trust their opinions on. So don't hate me when I say this, as I faded both of your pick of the weeks. But I am on Green Bay. And you mentioned the stat of them being 1-6 this season, being favored this heavy. It makes sense. It really does. But just as Brooklyn said last week, I think the Chicago team is, people are talking about it right now. If the season ended right now, is one of the worst 1 seeds we've ever seen. And that's not a shot at the Bears. I think it's just a shot at, I don't think they're a 9-3 team. Also, if they lose this week, they could fall as far as from the 1 seed all the way to the 7. And this is a Green Bay team that, yeah, you've seen some struggles, but offensively, they're, I talk about the Colts, the Chiefs, the Cowboys, and like the top for EPA per play. The Packers are right there. And Jordan Love, I know that there are mixed opinions there, but if you're an advanced stats guy, I mean, he's number one when it comes to passing EPA. Um, and a Bears defense that, yeah, confused the shit out of me last week with what they did against the Eagles. I mean, it looked like I was watching the Eagles defense. Like the D line really showed out, but I've said the last three episodes that there is a point where this Bears team is going to hit reality. I thought it was going to be last week, and both Brooklyn and I, the Super or the Black Friday Bowl really kicked our asses, but I think the Bears do have to get some spank back. Like when you're riding the high of your life, I don't know, you just hit like you bet a side on like a blackjack table, it hits like 25 to 1. All of a sudden you're riding it and you're like, you know what, maybe I'm gonna put a little bit here, I'm gonna put a little bit there, and not all of it's gonna come out that way. So I know I'm using an analogy of gambling to prove my point here, but I think to say it short and sweet, the Bears defense has showed why we should be scared, and I think reality hits them, and it's going to be in Lambeau.
Well, I don't agree with you.
Yeah, I know. It's going to be on the graphic.
Yeah.
Law of averages coming down on Nico here on an 0-for-2 streak for picks of the week, and all of a sudden he wants to fade us.
I definitely think Ben Johnson, though, taking over this Bears offense. I mean, and the Caleb Williams stats, like, if you saw the reel that was posted, 20-5 touchdowns.
Who didn't see the reel? It went worldwide.
I'd like that underscore
QBR,
pod.
I mean, I know it's not there, but as the season has progressed, I mean, this offense is really, on paper, you've seen it's really started to grow into its own. I mean, Luther Burden's finally starting to get out there. He's starting to get some targets. Colston Loveland's starting to break out. DJ Moore's being utilized in different ways on this offense, and much more as a rushing receiver, catching, pitches, that kind of thing. I mean, they definitely have the talent and the running back room also to kind of, experiment, be a little different. And that's kind of how they're winning games. So I think they could do it against especially a Green Bay team that you can catch slacking. So
Players to watch of this game. I scrolled a little far down, sorry. I'm on Jordan Love. He's just coming off a crazy high performance, but again, a Bears defense that allows a decent amount of points to the QB. As long as you're not Jalen Hurts and you can't throw the fucking football. But
Talk about that later.
I like Jordan Love here.
wow.
I'm leaning. Oh, go ahead.
I was only gonna go because I'm rolling with the other QB. I'm rolling with
fair.
Caleb. I think this is a big game for Caleb. I think this is really gonna determine the Bears season and how, legit they are, record wise or not. And I mentioned before in the reel that the numbers, on paper don't necessarily show his fantasy impact, but I think regardless, if you have him starting this week, he's gonna have production, whether it's rushing wise, passing yardage wise, and even if he does find the end zone passing or even rushing. So I like Caleb to start against this Packers team.
I am rolling with. I guess I can't have two of them, right?
I was just gonna say you have to pick.
Yeah, I'm rolling with. I was in between Kyle Monangai and DeAndre Swift. And it's this one's tough. I kind of gotta go with Swift, being on the fact that on that depth chart he is, that lead back and off a big game of last week going against Philadelphia. And I mean, God, who really expected that rushing attack to be that lethal by halftime? I forget how many yards, but it was over like 120.
I know they had 86 in the first quarter. They finished with over 230.
Which is just nuts, and that's momentum that Caleb has made plays when it counts, but at the same time, like efficiency wise, I don't think he's one of the more efficient quarterbacks, and I think they're gonna have to try to win another tough game against on paper very good defense multiple ways, and I think that they're gonna lean pretty heavily on that rushing attack just as they did.
And
if that ends up working for them, we are in line for another crazy Bears possible upset.
Which would help two of the three of us here, but it works. Everything's gonna come out when because we haven't heard my pick of the week just yet. But spoilers on the spreadsheet. But I don't think I got love with it. But anywho, not it here. But we're talking about the Rams at Cardinals. I believe the line is currently at 8. I'm keeping DraftKings open just to see because I know these lines have literally been changing as we've been talking. Down to 7.5, which just
Hmm.
goes to show. I think when we started recording it was at 8. So a little bit of a live adjustment here. 7.5 in favor of the Rams. All of us were on the Rams at -8, so I think this only makes us a little bit more excited. A Cardinals team that they covered the spread last week. They did in fact lose, but just narrowly covered. And a team that, with Jacoby Brissett at the helm, has showed that the offense can push. They have been able to cover, I think, at like a 40% rate since Brissett has gotten there. And meanwhile, you're talking about a Rams team that is the Super Bowl favorite, dominant on almost every side of the ball, and then they went out and they lose as 10-point favorites to the Panthers. So there's some questions, reasons to doubt them to a certain extent. Did any of you guys have those, or was it just me?
I did. I excuse me. I actually had Arizona originally when we were filling out the spreadsheet, but the more I was looking at it, the more I was thinking about it. Realistically, I feel like the Rams kind of cover this. Uh, it's a division game. Tough loss last week. I feel like there's no other way that McVay doesn't come out with a statement win of being like it was just an off week. I mean, that Carolina defense has been pretty consistent all season. We've seen it, especially against Green Bay, and we mention that all the time. But um, Cardinals Cardinals team that like we've seen the past few weeks that defense has kind of started to subside a little bit, and especially against this powerhouse of an offense. Uh, you know, I think I like the Rams' chances here.
Yeah, a couple factors came into last week's game against Carolina. Rain was a big thing, and Stafford had a rough first half of those two picks. But now we're back under a dome. You're in Arizona, and Los Angeles is used to that type of atmosphere, and they are absolutely the better team on paper. And I totally agree. This is a get right game against a loss that probably shouldn't have happened. But not much really sways me to take Arizona here outside of the fact that Harvard is back, and the Cardinals do manage to put up fights in a lot of these games. But I still think that this is a game where Los Angeles is probably pissed that they just lost to a team like the Panthers. So expect a big bounce back, and that's really all I got. At
I
the
also
moment, no.
no, I don't. He's Cardinals have been throwing the ball. He literally set a record this year. And also, quick fact: Brissett so far when he started the season, he has a 71 completion percentage against the blitz this year. So he's been able to even when teams have been getting the pressure on him, he's still been able to get the ball off to his receivers. So
Impressive. I'm going with Devonte Adams. You want to talk about boring? This is a guy you can put an anytime touchdown bet on, and you're almost pretty sure it's gonna hit. Guy currently leads, I think all time this weird stat of touchdowns called within like 5 yards, and it's the terror of just threat that he's been, not even just in the red zone, but just in the end zone within that 5 yard to 10 yard margin. Like you throw the ball up to him, you're almost sure he's gonna come down with it. And I think I don't know, I should actually probably should look up the stat. But last couple of games, like he's just been a lock to score at least one time. It's almost like
I've
worth putting
already
it down on
I've already
score
got it up.
twice.
I was just gonna ask
What do you
you.
got?
Do you know the last time that Devonte Adams has not scored in a game?
I'm looking at it now. Nick, do you know what week?
um
Not week 8
week
because they were on the
6.
bye. Yes,
Was it week 6?
it was week 6. Since then, week 7 against Jacksonville, he put up 3. I think that was overseas. New Orleans put up 2. San
Yeah.
Francisco, Seattle, Tampa Bay. Sorry, San Francisco, Seattle put up 1, and then against Tampa Bay and Carolina, both had 2 touchdowns. And he's just been such a monster inside that end zone, and he's the go-to
gross.
guy when it comes to that area.
14 touchdowns. We just brought up Trevor Lawrence. That's 2 less than he has passing. Insane. Insane. But heading into Sunday Night Football, you know what that means.
We got a pick of the week.
You should play like the gross one.
Right.
No.
It's fading up.
I'm talking my pick of the week. Oh my God. What are you doing? You're insane. Houston traveling to Kansas City. And I'm taking the Chiefs again, man. Can you screw me 3 times over? I've also had 3.5, 3, 3.5.
Like, pick a different line at least.
I'm
Like, just wait for it to
maybe if it was a better board this week, I would have done it. But we're talking about a Patrick Mahomes that, when facing the Texans, is 5-0 in the last 5 matchups. This season, this is the first time we've seen Mahomes lose 3 out of 4 outright. While doing so, he's still tied for the Chiefs are still tied for first in EPA per play, and in some ways, from depending how you want to view this, I mean, we're looking at the number one efficient quarterback in the league versus the number 1 defense. Like, it's gonna be a great game, but the Chiefs, they've been 1-6 in 1-score games, when they were 10-0 last year. So there's been a decent amount of unluckiness for this team, and a CJ Stroud that I'm not bought in yet. I mean, he had that game against Baltimore where he went for 4 touchdowns and 0 picks. And I know he's been hurt this year. But in games where he didn't leave early, he's got 7 touchdowns and 6 picks. And that's in a total of like 8 games. So I think there's reasons to worry for this Houston offense. And I just think at the end of the day, if Kansas City has not hit the spread in 3 consecutive weeks, or sorry, at this rate it would be 4, because that's why they were the pick of the week last week. I'm just gonna ride. Like, you're telling me that there's a world where the Chiefs, just go 0-5, 0-6 against the spread. I even took the Chiefs to make the playoffs as a bet today. It was at plus 120. I have faith in this team. They've been unlucky, and I think especially at Sunday night, like you're gonna see a team you want to like. I hate to make the stat of it's must win, but I mean they have to win out. They still have a 98% chance to make the playoffs if they win out. And I even think 3.5 is a comfortable line. Granted, an over-under of 41.5, but I think they pull it out.
It's the Mahomes glazing that has that percentage that high. Like, you saw what the Texans defense just did to Buffalo in a primetime game with Davis Mills as the quarterback. You saw what the Texans defense just did to the Colts, one of the better offenses that we had been watching early on. And of course, JT gonna get going and Jones playing on a fracture, whatever. But nevertheless, they came out of that game with a win. Both games they came out on top against teams that they are not favored to beat. And you don't think that now, like that Texans defense that has like all of that fire in their gut going against the Patrick Mahomes in a game that each loss puts him more and more out of reach of playoffs. Maybe that Texans offense isn't going to be the reason why they win, but I damn well will bet that the Texans will keep that close enough to cover that spread again or even win it because of their defense knows that this is probably the biggest game they have all year.
I mean, can you make the argument the same way? Like, you're saying like this defense isn't fired up. I mean, you're talking about a Patrick Mahomes that is in a scenario where he might miss the playoffs. It's like betting against LeBron.
You're also
think it's
talking about a scenario though where if Houston wins, you're talking about an AFC South now that's basically wide open. You have the Colts. You have the Colts who already have a loss to the Texans this year, and the Jaguars. If the Texans win this game, the Texans are right back into it. And sorry to cut you off, Brooklyn. Texans are on a 4-game win streak. In their last 3 wins, they've allowed 13, 19, and 16 points. 16 points to the best offense in the league. So
I'm not worried.
I would be worried.
I would be a little bit worried.
I would be pretty worried. Like this line has
I
been the same every time that the Chiefs haven't covered it, and now they're playing one of the now probably I would say in terms of like threat level, I think that Houston is like the scariest offense to play against in terms of like how they can just decimate a quarterback's game. Chiefs, remember, like I said earlier, not until the fourth quarter they got shut out in quarters 2 and 3 against Dallas, a defense that we've been saying is dog shit. Now you're playing a team that will willingly go 4 quarters toe to toe with that defense, and it's I don't know, man.
You're talking about a
This
Chiefs
is
team that is hitting at 86% hit rate on covering a fourth quarter spread. They show up at the end.
fourth quarter spread.
They show up at the
You're
end.
taking the game spread.
I am taking the game
Uh,
spread. Again, it's a risky one. It's probably the
it
most
is. It's
ballsy one
definitely
that
risky.
I've said.
To bet against the Texans this week is absolutely.
They're
To
on
bet
the
against
road.
Texans,
Like the Chiefs are at home.
they're on the road against the Colts. And so far they're on a bit of a streak here. I think this game they circle this one on their calendar after everything they've been through. That this is probably this is the biggest game of their season, and they know it. I don't know.
Texans also 6-6 against the spread this season. Just quick stat, but
And the Texans also they after this game they play the Cardinals, they play the Raiders, they play the Chargers, they play the Colts. So there's interesting ground to be made where I think that they can still lose this game and maybe still be in the divisional race.
But like you don't want to like lose to Mahomes and then be like, oh well, we just have the Cardinals, the Raiders. Like no, you want to make a statement that yeah, we can take the Chiefs, and then everything after that, like right. I mean, who cares about the Raiders? But this is a game that means a lot to the Colts. I think they damn well know it, and I think Kansas City is definitely in a lot of trouble going against a defense that's been this stellar as of late.
And the other thing that really stuck out to me about this too is when you look at the money percentage of this game as well, 80% of it on Houston's side. Again, it's kind of the same analogy I made for the Dallas or picking Detroit over Dallas is these casinos they make lines to win money, and I'm telling you right now like MGM, FanDuel, Caesars they're all rooting for Chiefs -3.5 because that'll pay out a lot better for them. So yeah, I'm going a little bit risky, going a little bit ballsy, taking what I think is the number one offensive quarterback versus the number one defense. And my player to watch for this is going to be Travis Kelce, for the same exact reason that I shouted out Tyler Warren last week. And granted, Warren didn't have the production that I wanted, but a Texans team that is primarily going to run at you with a lot of zone, and that like intermediate level of the field's going to be decently open, and that's where Kelce lives. So if I have Travis Kelce, I'm starting him this week, and I could comfortably say that he's gonna bring in about 5-6 receptions.
6 or 7 maybe.
Nope.
Probably not 7.
Maybe like 5-7, 6-8.
Definitely not between those two.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna go with the rookie Jaden Higgins this time. Nico Collins had a pretty decent week last week, but going against the Chiefs defense, which you got to give them their respect too for the most part. I mean, Dallas kind of lit them up, but we all know that Dallas's offense is dangerous. But even if they have their hands full with Nico Collins, I think a good guy running up for Stroud as he gets back into rhythm is going to be Jaden Higgins. Definitely has emerged as a pretty decent wide receiver 2 option for them. Last couple of games, he's been streaky with his touchdowns, but gets a pretty decent volume of target share. So look for him to kind of take a load off of there of Nico if Nico Collins is getting locked up. But yeah, I like Higgins for a possible boomer bust this week.
I didn't actually include that, but I also meant to write on for Jaden Higgins. I like him this week too. He's been a pretty, I wouldn't necessarily, I would say solid, but he's been a pretty good plug and play guy matchup wise if you needed him to.
And then we head to Monday Night Football. The Eagles at the Chargers. Currently Eagles -3. Over under at 40.5. Some ugly ones for some good teams. And you think, why is it so low? Jalen Hurts cannot throw the football, and Justin Herbert is missing another hand. A lot of non-dominant throwing hand quarterback injuries this year. But you're talking about a Chargers defense that is 5th in opponent points in last 4 games, and currently 2nd fewest passing yards allowed per game. Spreadsheet-wise, Nick and I taking the Eagles. Brooklyn taking the Chargers. And out of every time that you have taken the Chargers, I think this is your most questionable. What out of everything that they're like the ex-girlfriend that keeps coming back. You say you're done and then you get the text and you're like, maybe dinner can't hurt.
Chargers. Summers.
It gets harder to like willfully like want to defend them every week. Like I'm more or less rooting against Philly here because of just that masterclass they put on last week. I'm rolling Chargers +3 here for the exact statistics that you just brought up. Fifth in opponents points allowed in the last 4 games. And going against second fewest passing yards allowed against the Eagles offense that through the air just cannot do anything. Like you look at Jalen Hurts' stat lines and they look a little bit prettier than the game really is. A lot of stat padding, I would say, came to that last one against the Bears. Like he had, they decided to randomly start throwing the ball in the last quarter when they were like, can't hurt to try to make up some ground in the air, right? And it started to work a little bit, but overall that game was ugly as hell. That alongside with Saquon has been incredibly inefficient from what you might expect from him, and I just haven't seen anything out of that offense that really yells to me that they're a team that week to week is dependable to go against, to really come out on top most of the time. So we saw that against Chicago. Going with the Chargers also because, Herbert's non-throwing hand is hurt. Doesn't mean that he can't throw. He's got all of his options offensively still there. It's just a matter of the O-line, and if they can, they know they have a big test coming up with Jalen Carter, and big game nonetheless. Philly's gonna want to bounce back, but SoFi, man, it's SoFi. You can't bet against SoFi either.
What do you mean you can't bet against SoFi?
See how well the Rams have played
Bet against the stadium.
You can't bet against the stadium. The Rams have a crazy record inside the stadium, but the SoFi part was kind of a joke. But I don't like how Philly has played of late. Offensive struggles, it's just been all jumbled, and I think that the Chargers have at least had offensive rhythm. It's just gonna be a matter of now just being consistent defensively for the Chargers.
After the rough defensive showing that they had against the Bears last week, I think with the situation of Herbert's hand not being 100%, and we don't even know if he's going to even play this week, I think obviously helps Philly in this favor. But definitely is a good get-right game for this defense. I mean, they've been a powerhouse all year. I mean, this is the team that beat the Packers. I like Philly -3 here. I mean, even if Jalen Hurts can't throw the fucking football, like Nico said earlier, I think Saquon Barkley gets production. Eventually, he needs to. This is the game where if they can't throw the football, they're gonna have to give it to somebody. Whether it's not him, whether it's it needs to happen eventually. So I like Philly. It just a lot of narratives going into this game, a lot of unknowns. Probably won't know more until the weekend with Herbert's status. But with that and all said and all, I like Philly.
You couldn't have said it better. I shit on Jalen Hurts, but at the same time, yeah, I do have questions. And yes, it's not Herbert's throwing hand, but at the same time, I mean that O line is not necessarily secure. And you take one more hit. Like say he does play, he takes one hit, and then all of a sudden, yeah, now you got Trey Lance. And like, would you take Trey Lance +3 against the Eagles? I don't know.
If it is Trey Lance, put me down to switch that bet. But if it is Herbert, because like I remember last time we were watching the Chargers game and we look at the skin, I'm like, what the hell is that? I'm like, holy shit, it's Trey Lance.
If Trey Lance does play, and the line gets switched though, you can't take Philly -3. You got to take whatever it ends up being. That's like Philly -4.5, -6.
Philly -10.
But yeah, I think the Philly defense is better than what it showed against Chicago, and I kind of do agree that the pass rush for the Chargers it's not bad, but it's middle of the pack, and you do think that Saquon should have a game coming up. So I like the Eagles here. I also like Devonta Smith because realistically, there's only one receiver that's allowed to eat each week for Philly. And A.J. Brown's had a couple of good games. I think this is a Devonta game. he's also been a guy that's gone up and just had some insane snags, and maybe we see one this week.
I agree. I'm rolling with Saquon's here. I think this is the game that if this if it's 2 weeks in a row where Philly can't get their passing offense in the right state of mind or just in a flow, I think this is the game. You have Saquon Barkley in your backfield, and you are the Eagles with your offensive line. You got to use it. You got to utilize it. I mean, you got to make it work somehow. And especially with a beat up team like LA, this is the game to do it. So I like Saquon.
And I'm going with Omari Hampton. Taking a risk here with, I mean, this helps that out even, especially if Trey Lance ends up taking snaps. I'm taking Omari Hampton there just because from what I just saw, the Bears do to that Eagles defense. I'm hoping, especially coming off of IR, he's hungry. Possible performance, big welcome back moment.
And with that, you'd think the slate is over. However, if you've noticed, we have skipped over a couple games. Unfortunately, I don't know how many people can listen to a podcast for over 2 hours, and we wanted to kind of elaborate a little bit more on some matchups. So, change it up here. We're having a little bit of a rapid fire round with what we thought were the least entertaining games to discuss. So I'm going to take it off, or I'm going to start us off here, and I'm going to keep this as quick as I can for each matchup. Saints at Bucks, -8.5. Tampa, they're healthier. They need to bounce back. This is a good opportunity. The Saints suck. 2 wins, and they've covered the spread 4 times against bad teams. Also, the Saints 1-11 against the spread in the first quarter. Won some good money off that last week against Miami. Speaking of Miami at Jets. Jets +3. Not for me. Miami -3. The offenses look good.
You're so creative.
Thank you.
And I like the way your mind works so quickly.
Yeah, that was all on the fly.
Like Dr. Seuss when you were growing up, like where are these riddles coming from?
Tua 6-0 straight up against the Jets, 4-2 against the spread. Last 4 games, third fewest points allowed. Crazy. Defense actually looks like it's holding up pretty good. Moving on, Denver at Vegas. Vegas +8.5. We saw this before. We saw Vegas almost cover, but I'm not there. Denver, yeah, they didn't look necessarily too great against the Commanders, but holy shit, this Raiders offense is a mess. And I don't think Brock Bowers can catch everything with one hand and take you to the promised land. And I forgot one in the middle. Washington at Minnesota. Minnesota -2.5 now. Crazy. I think that means McCarthy's playing. I don't care. Commanders have shown fight the last couple weeks. It doesn't make sense analytically to bet for them because the defenses look bad. But if 9's there, I don't even know which QB I want more between 9 and Brosmer, but I think both just help Washington. Boom.
That was good.
Thank
Nice.
you.
That's very good.
Good job.
Who wants to go next?
I'll go next. We start back in New Orleans against Tampa Bay. Saints did not look good. Looking at the Bucks, much better offense, much better quarterback. That's really all I can say about that. Like that to be over a touchdown. Moving on, we went straight to Miami versus the Jets. I believe I was rolling with the Jets here. Tyrod Taylor's look good. Miami defense still is not great. Tyler Shuck almost just got it done, and now you're facing a veteran. I like the Jets to here possibly cover, maybe even pull off another upset, even though I think it's a little bit more even than we think. Denver, Vegas, I think we are all. Oh, sorry, did I just skip over Minnesota as well? Saw a lot of promise there. Saw a lot of promise. Yeah, it's like the smallest part of the notes sheet. Mariota. Played very well, now with McLaurin, Debo back. That offense looks pretty in rhythm against a not as challenging defense as they just played. And then going against Denver and Las Vegas, there's not much to say for Vegas. That offense sucks. Denver's defense is still dangerous. All going to be up to Bo Nix to really just continue to have a somewhat decent and steady performance. And I believe that is it.
Washington.
I just talked to Washington. I went back.
Oops. And then Nick.
I'll go very quickly now, because we've already talked. All right. Bucks, New Orleans, Tampa, really bad team against the spread the last few weeks. In the last 6 games, they're 1-5 against the spread. However, New Orleans, Kamara questionable. Olave's dealing with a back injury. Negative 18 EPA per run play. This team sucks. So I'm rolling with Tampa. After that, we go Miami Jets. I like Miami -3 here with Nico. E10, very, very good. His last 3 games, 428 rushing yards. Averages almost 6 yards a carry. Holy shit. Also, against the Jets, they had 9 penalties against the Falcons. They allowed almost 100 yards in penalties, and they still fucking won the game. I don't understand how that works. But anyways, rolling with Miami. Washington at Minnesota. Taking Washington, yeah, that quarterback situation is a fucking shit show. Justin Jefferson probably gonna we're gonna see an Odell epidemic. He's gonna hit a net. Something's gonna happen. I like Mariota in this situation. I know Nico said that the Vikings defense didn't even play a bad game last week against Seattle. But I mean, I don't know, man. That offense is just so bad, and the Commanders' defense looked pretty decent against Denver. Denver at Vegas. I know last time I was on Vegas. However, this offense is a pile of shit. I think Denver covers 8.5. I think this defense, they have a get back, especially after that shitty showing in a primetime game. I think Geno Smith just throws a million fucking picks. I don't know. They're playing Surtain. I like Denver. Yeah, that's it.
You kiss your mother with that mouth?
Sure do.
Chad, cool.
Tongue and all.
I'm taking my almonds.
Now you might be thinking, that's it. But no, we wanted to make a little bit more time. Wanted to bring in a new segment. And we all decided to pick a prop this week. Nice little parlay like we did with the NBA. If only we had a.
Hold on. Oh.
What?
It's prop time.
I was waiting for that.
I didn't know you were gonna intro it.
As I was saying, I was like, if only we had a sound for that. But no, that works.
'Cause you're so creative. I just didn't know you were gonna do it off impulse.
Sorry.
You're like the Steve Spagnuolo of podcasting.
I'll call that a compliment, I guess. Defense wins championships when you're editing a pod, I guess. But prop plays for the week. My go-to for this one was Isaac Tesla, over 2.5 receptions. I got it at -132. I just checked now. I think it's up to -140. Amon-Ra's not playing, just like what I said. If he's not playing, Cowboys secondary, highest over-under of the week. And last week, with no Amon-Ra, 2 for 2, 35 yards. I think he's going to get a little bit more than 2 targets this week.
I am going with Josh Allen over. I had 230 plus passing yards. Depends what sportsbook you have. I know BetMGM 229, DraftKings he's at like 234.5. I like 230 plus against Cincy. He's covered this line 4 of his last 5 games. This defense is bad, really, really bad. So I think 230. I think a line 230 plus is actually relatively reasonable for Allen. And this is a 51.5 total. So I mean they're going to be airing the ball out regardless. And I mean Buffalo has the everybody eats offense. So yeah, I like this. I like it. Odds were -115. I think straight up, depending on if you take an alternate. But
Fair enough. Well, we kind of covered my pick earlier this episode. I went Jalen Hurts under 187.5 passing yards for the reason of you can't really trust that passing defense right now. Chargers defense pretty decent. We talked about those stats, second fewest passing yards per game. I believe I got it at -114, but it's going to be different with all books, I think, at the moment. But that's when I think, you might look at me and say, really? Like, it hurts with A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, but we all know how that's looked. So definitely see this going under. The last 2 times that he's covered this was against the last 2 games against the Bears, the Cowboys, defenses that aren't that good. But before that, Lions and Packers did not cover that spread. Expect, for the Chargers to give him a little bit of trouble, and I don't really think he can clear that on his.
Oh, what a lag spike right at the end. But we got it. We got most of it.
Did you get the gist?
Yes.
yes,
If you put those all in a parlay, when we're recording this at the very least, that would be a 470 parlay. But I hope they work well. With that said, what a great episode, guys. This is up there for one of my favorites.
definitely.
As
a lot of
always,
The soundboard makes it way more entertaining.
New sounds, new segments.
Nick just saying openly, like, yeah, we weren't really able, you couldn't listen to us before, but now we're entertaining.
Now with all our new buttons. Do you want to play the one that?
By the
Do
way,
you want to play the scary one? Would you
I
even
need to
scary
one
one.
of these months.
Don't
I
you
need
trigger
to-
warning?
Oh boy.
Man, that's a load of horse shit.
I can't wait to hear how loud that comes out in post.
Oh, it's loud. I will say real quick, if you're using Fanatics, Jalen Hurts jumped up to -190.5. I still like that just because he hasn't covered that in the other 2 times, the other 3 times. So, just letting you know.
Perfect. Socials as always, like that _pod. New graphic template this week. Put a lot of effort into that. I'm really excited for it. I think it looks dope. And yeah, I also posted some mini games on social media too, little this or that. Let the fans interact with us. So some off the podcast content. So like that _pod on all social media platforms.
Definitely check it out.
But we will see you
Please.
next week with hopefully some picks that hit.